Hello, my name's Scott Davis. Welcome to New World Birth. This is the weekly neutrino forecast for August 10th to August 16th of 2014. And on August 10th, we have the sun in Leo. It's also in the seventh hexagram, and you can see the stacks of lines on the outside of the wheel here, numbered from bottom to top. And the seventh hexagram goes yin, yang, yin, 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 yin. Um, and then the sun in the seventh hexagram is mapped to an opening in an energy channel called a gate. And we have right here the seventh gate of the role of the self, the army, the point of convergence. By design, the need for leadership to guide and order society. It's located in the G center in a collective logic energy path in the understanding circuit called the channel, the alpha, which is a design of leadership for good or bad that connects to the 31st gate of leading influence, the law of friction, whether active or passive, that engenders transference and thus influence. And I found human design to be amazingly accurate in describing the person, and that's why I use it as my primary tool when I provide readings. Well, we have the following activated gates on August 10th. We've got the sun in the seventh gate. We have the earth is in the 13th gate. The north node is here in the 32nd gate. The south node in the 42nd gate. We have Mercury in the fourth gate with Venus in the 56, Mars in the 44, Jupiter is in the 31, Saturn is in the first gate. We have Uranus retrograde in the 51, Neptune retrograde in the 37, and Pluto is retrograde in the 38th gate. And obviously, not every gate forms a gate activation forms a channel, but this information can be very helpful if you know your own human design chart, because it may form channels with potentials in your personal body graph. And you can get your human design chart by going to jovianarchive.com and clicking on the button that says get your free rave chart, and then just enter in your birth information. So the neutrino forecast is really just like a weather report. No matter what the weather, your individual strategy and authority is the correct choice to have an authentic experience regardless of the program. As Ra Uru Hu said, whatever the weather is going to be, you have your neutrino umbrella. As long as you're experimenting with your strategy and authority, the weather is for your pleasure. And as we begin the week, we have one channel definition due to the transit field. With Jupiter in the 31 and the Sun in the 7, we have the channel of the Alpha, the design of leadership for good or bad, until the 11th. So this might be a time when folks are recognized as true leaders, but the more reluctant they are to assume this responsibility, usually the better leaders they become. Being a logical, collective channel, this confers the ability to understand patterns and trends, which can then be projected into the future. The people who have this in their natal chart, it can explain the information logically in ways that others can understand. The most important aspect is that these leaders are attuned to the rhythms of the people that they are to lead. And we're going to look at the sun's Ravi Ching line values, because 70% of the neutrinos we receive come through the sun. And as Ra said in Design Perspectives number 56, in his presentation, Living with the Program with Ra Uru Hu, the lines of the day, when he was talking about these shifts and lines of values, he said, we can always take advantage of the themes of the day. Now, if your strategy and authority doesn't really lead you in that direction, you can always just kind of notice how the program's affecting others in your environment. So let's get started. On August 10th, we have the sun in the 7th hexagram. It's in the 5th line, and the sun in the 5th line of the 7th hexagram is the general leadership, whose authority must be absolute and is sanctioned by society in times of crisis. Exalted, the gift of attracting loyalty necessary in harmonizing the potential of society. The capacity of the self to attract loyalty. Detriment, the commander isolated from his troops, obsessed with victory at any price. The lack of loyalty when the self insists on isolation. Fifth line days, if we talked about this before, it's the heretic. It's about there's suspicion, but there's also universalization where things spread and get a lot of views, like a Facebook post or a YouTube video. But there's also a great deal of suspicion and paranoia on a fifth line day because of the projection that's out there, and the projections first positive, like, yeah, they can do it, they'd be great. And then if they don't do it, can't do it for whatever reason, it doesn't get done, the negative projection and the punishment follows. So this can impact the nature of our relationships. Seduction is also a fifth line theme. So later on the 10th, though, the sun moves into the sixth line, into the line of the role model. Again, seventh hexagram. The shift happens at 11:36 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. I'm going to give you all the times as Eastern Daylight Time. You'll want to convert that to your local time zone. So the sun in the sixth line of the seventh hexagram is the administrator, the ability to share and justify a portion power, a portion power. Exalted, the power to communicate the frameworks of responsibility, the capacity of the self through its role to communicate responsibly. Detrimented, the bureaucrat whose lust for power eventually destabilizes organization. The role of the self to seek power through communication of responsibility. And Rod talks about that this when we get into that sixth line energy, not to get stuck with your head in the clouds because you'll end up with something banging into your kneecaps or your shins. Think about it. Sixth line is looking beyond. It's what's coming next. It's not so concerned about its local environment. So things can bump into you. Uh, Folks might not notice what's going on in their immediate environment. They might not see the car coming. They might not see the bill coming. These types of things can be certain. Bring certain dangers, much like a third line day would. We'll get to the third line day when we get to one. Anyway, on the 11th, the sun moves out of the seventh hexagram and joins Mercury in the fourth hexagram. So, which means that we no longer have this definition. Keep Jupiter there. And the Earth moves from the 13th hexagram to the 49. So let's see. I don't know what's going to stick here. All right, to the 49. The 49th gate is the gate of principles, revolution, ideally the transformation of forms based on the highest principles and not simply for power. And this shift happens at 11:03 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and with the sun in the fourth gate of formalization, youthful folly, the energy to beguile and succeed despite ignorance, freedom from retribution. And of course, now that we're in a new hexagram, we start with the first line. And the sun in the first line of the fourth hexagram is pleasure. The ultimate pleasure cannot be achieved without perfect timing. Exalted, the instinct to know the right moment and circumstances where pleasure is rewarded and not punished. The potential to recognize that there is a natural timing to the understanding process. Detrimented, timing is not a product of discipline. Exaggerated self-discipline leads to abuse of pleasure. The potential to recognize, but the urge to force timing. And so now that we're in the first line here, the first, second, and third line days, people are looking more inward. They're more absorbed in their own process. The first line theme is about fear or anxiety that needs to be investigated. So this is a day where you might want to study something or look into things or deal with things you don't understand, can't make sense of, or don't know. Maybe there's something that you've been wanting to research, and the first line day might be an appropriate time to do that. And then on the 12th, we have the sun moving into the second line. of the fourth hexagram. So we moved out of the line of the investigator, and we're now moving into the line of the hermit. This shift happens at 10:31 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The sun in the fourth hexagram, second line, is described as acceptance. The recognition of limitation in oneself and others leads to tolerance and the suspension of judgment. Exalted, the glorification of feelings. The mother which always pardons the errant child. The potential to recognize that not everyone can understand. Detrimented, the assertion of the ego at the expense of the of others' failures. The potential to take advantage of the lack of understanding in others. And second line days, this is the line of the hermit, the natural. Everyone's waiting for something. They're waiting to be called. They're kind of, again, stuck in their own trip in that lower trigram. So it might not be the best day to have a party or some kind of celebration, because people are probably going to really want to just hang out at home. And then also on the 12th, Mercury moves from the fourth hexagram, so the sun stays there, and Mercury then moves into the 29th gate down here, and Mercury, in mythology, Mercury was the messenger of the gods. So this Mercury is about communication, expansion of human consciousness through communication, not only as words, but Ra talks about it also coming in the form of music. So what do we need to communicate in our life? Well, we communicate the message of our design Mercury through the medium of our personality Mercury. So what might be communicated? Well, Mercury's in the 29th hexagram. Commitments. This is the gate of saying yes. The abysmal, the deep within the deep. Persistence despite difficulties has inevitable rewards. And Mercury is in the first line of the 29, and this is the draftee, the ability to struggle when necessary, but not as a permanent state. Exalted, the innate nature to apply energy in times of war and peace. The power to persevere when necessary, but not generally. Detrimented, a deep impressionability whose mark from times of struggle may return to normal conditions, may make the return to normal conditions extremely difficult. A hesitation in making commitments based on past experiences. And on the 13th, the sun moves into the third line, the line of the martyr. Again, fourth hexagram, the shift happening at 9:58 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, which is irresponsibility, the general refusal to apply oneself diligently when one can get by with much less effort. Exalted, where art is more valued than the artist. The potential to enjoy the formulas with no regard to their practical application. Detrimented, the realization of irresponsibility as an act of refocalization. The potential to justify such a process in order to maintain it. And third line days, think about it. We've got bonds made and broken, trial and error process, a system of discovery by figuring out what doesn't work. So it's a day to be careful on the roads, be careful what's going on in your environment, whether it's a swinging door or somebody's elbows or whatever. It's a day where you might have bonds made or you might have bonds broken or both. It's a day where there's a trial and error process and things bump into you. It's a good material day. It might be a good day for doing business or work on the material plane, but you have to be careful because things can go wrong. But those things that go wrong are there to lead to discovery. And then also on the 13th, Venus, it moves from the 56 hexagram here, and it joins Jupiter in the 31st hexagram. And in human design, Venus is very powerful, deeply misunderstood according to Ra. It brings morality, natural law in which we deal with the other and the consequences of the world around us, and what disturbs you on a moral level. Well, your design and personality Venuses tell of the moral dilemma that you're going to work with in your life. And if you do not act with moral clarity, Venus can be very unkind in its retribution, according to Ra. So Venus is in the 31st gate of leading, influence, the law of friction, whether active or passive, that engenders transference, thus influence. Venus in the 31-1 is manifestation. Influence cannot exist in a vacuum. Exalted, the sun does not and cannot hold back its light and thus its influence on every life. The natural expression of leadership, detrimented, the absorption of light in the darkness that can only promise manifestation, the unnatural expression of leadership. And then on the 14th, the sun moves from into the fourth line, the opportunist line of the fourth hexagram at 9:24 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, where it is exalted and described as the liar, the actor. This is role playing as an art form. Exalted fantasy projects and nurtures a sense of purpose and reason, no matter how misguided. The potential to find or illustrate the formulas through fantasy. And fourth line days, this is where we're shifting. We're going from the lower trigram to the upper trigram. We're going through a personal process to a transpersonal process. So this is where the day's energy changes from an inward perspective to the more looking outward. The themes of the fourth line are friendship, companionship, networking. Fourth line days are great for social interaction. People are more open to networking and being friendly and social. And then on the 15th, the sun moves into the fifth line, the heretic line of the fourth hexagram at 8:49 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and the sun in the fourth hexagram in the fifth line is described as seduction, allowing others to assume responsibility as a shield against potential punishment. Exalted, unearned reward and recognition, the potential to succeed through understanding uh, uh, through the understanding of others. Detrimented is a life of lip service to antiquated and unsatisfactory values. Cynicism, the potential for cynicism that comes with having to acknowledge the understanding of others. And fifth line days, like we're talking about, is heretical. It's a day of suspicion. Also universalization, where something spreads rapidly like a virus. It's a great day where there's a great deal of suspicion and paranoia, which again can impact our relationships. Projection and seduction are also fifth line themes. Also on the 15th, Mercury moves from the 29 to the 59. And Mercury, we've talked about Mercury being about communication. So what might be communicated when Mercury's in the 59th gate? Sex. This is the gate of sexuality, dispersion, the ability to break down barriers to achieve union. Mercury is detrimented in the first and the fourth and the sixth lines of the 59th hexagram. The first line is the preemptive strike, detrimented in this position the ability and intelligence to recognize but a deep indecisiveness about how and when to act. The potential of fertility limited by uncertainty. On the 16th, the sun moves into the sixth line, the role model line of the fourth hexagram at 8:14 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The sun in the fourth hexagram, sixth line, is excess. Repeated and conscious abuse of norms will not escape discipline. Exalted, the development through experience of techniques to apply self-restraint, the potential in a logical process to recognize when understanding is not complete, and have the patience to wait out the process. Detrimented, the gall to accept punishment as the price of excess, despite recognizing the incompleteness, a lack of patience with the process. And again, we're on the roof of the hexagram. The 6 lines looking beyond is what's coming next. So we might not see things that are happening in the moment under that influence. So the sun is continuing through the 7, the 4, the 29, and the 59th hexagrams, which are the gates associated with the Thoth god's head, the Egyptian god of wisdom, which was covered in last week's offering. So if you want to check that out, just check out last week's video, and you can find out more about that. So no matter what energies are conditioning you during the week, remember this experience is about being a passenger that's riding in a vehicle driven by the magnetic monopole. So enjoy the scenery. Let the vehicle take you where you need to go through using your strategy and authority. Every day we have is a blessing, no matter what dramas beckon to distract us. We're all here just giving the performance of our lifetime on the world stage. Um, uh, so and so I think it's important that when we're giving these performances, by following our strategy and authority, it gives us an opportunity to observe the play, observe your movie, as well as act your part. Remember that you're a spiritual being that's having a human experience. I want to thank you for checking out New World Birth. The next weekly neutrino forecast will be on August 17th. Of 2014. It should be available on by the 16th, when we're going to continue to look at the influence of the heavenly bodies as they transit the sky and the hexagrams of the I Ching. You can check us out on Facebook, Blogger, and YouTube. There's a New World Birth presence on each of those places. And I encourage you to share this information as videos or as text as widely as you choose. And I'm going to be discussing the transits of September 2014 and providing some short human design readings to the participants of the Earth Needs Rebels on Truth Frequency Radio on Tuesday, September 2nd. And actually, the August show has now been postponed until August 12th, so you can still catch that show as it has not yet occurred. And Earth Needs Rebels is a great show on Truth Frequency Radio. You can get into the chat space and chat with Katie, and she'll take your information if you want a reading, or you can personal messenger her, and she will call you for free anywhere on the planet to actually bring you live on the show. I invite you to contact me at newworldbirth@yahoo.com if you have any questions or you wish to schedule a reading. And if you've been thinking about getting a reading, please contact me. I'd love to provide you a reading during these uncertain times. You'll need to be able to either call me in Maine in the USA, or we can connect on Skype to receive your reading. We're also accepting donations to keep these reports freely available. Best way to make a donation: get a reading. Yeah, these are the readings I provide as paid readings are epic. They usually last at least 2 hours. Sometimes they go considerably longer. They're packed with data. They're packed with information, just like these videos are. And they're very helpful in just moving through this incarnation. So anyway, as always, I'm blessed that you've taken the time to connect with my passion for all these ancient mysteries and their application in our journey during this incarnation. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste, in Lakesh. And as Ra would say, love yourself. And so anyway, thanks a lot for participating and checking this all out. And I look forward to connecting with you on the radio show or a future video or a personal reading, whichever it is. Anyway, thanks for everything, and all my best.